So about 6 weeks before the pageant, it became pretty clear to the point they said that we couldn't be in Vegas. They said you can't have people watching your show. You can't have large crowds. Oh, that's fine. We'll do a streaming event. It will be a ticketed streaming event. Nobody will be in the crowd. Won't be as fun for the women and everybody, but we'll adapt. That's a ticketed event. For people not there, it's still a ticketed event. They didn't want ticketed events in Vegas, so that became very clear they didn't want anybody in Vegas.
I worked with the Nevada Gaming Board for months. I can't even remember how many months. It seemed like forever, doing updates. What are we going to do? How do we do it? I had one of my customers offer to provide me $250,000 of facial imaging system that would do thermal temperatures. We had one for each ballroom that we were going to be occupying so that we could balance everything out, be COVID safe. Then we found out finally, at the last minute, one more time after we had every box checked, that, well, it's a ticketed event. I says, no, we talked about, this was the first item we talked about. We won't have anybody in the audience. Well, our definition of ticketed event is if you're live streaming it, that now is a ticketed event. We'll just leave it at that.
So we packed up and moved cross country to Florida.
As someone that was both witnessing and also supporting decisions that were being made and changes that had to be made in order for the 2020 pageant to even be, my stomach turns. It was not easy.
Up until this year, this job as the producer, choreographer, emceeing a show feels like muscle memory. So it's something that happens. I feel like until this year, I would just sit back and I'd watch a painting unfold itself on a canvas. But this year, we couldn't even find a canvas. There was nothing available except for pure will, drive, persistence, and ultimately perseverance.
Being engineers and looking at critical paths, we always, if we know there's a failure mode, we figure out 3 different ways to solve it, just so we always have a backup. So we put a backup on top of a backup on top of a backup. We looked at renting an island by the Keys or in the Bahamas. We looked at renting a cruise ship, and we looked at renting a pretty famous resort with a large theater. And we actually had 3 parallel paths going, or 4 if you count the theater and the hotel. Well, it turned out couldn't get it to the island. Turned out the cruise ship couldn't leave the dock or have anybody on it, and the local theater also was shut down. So we had to erect a whole set in a 10,000 square foot ballroom, which we had honestly never done at the national level. So a lot of walking and thinking. It was stressful in that regard, because we have choreographers, we have great camera people, we have great photographers. We don't have stage designers on the staff, so that one rested on me. We actually came up with 3, maybe 4 different set designs just to get it done in a way that would be functional and fun and unique for the women. So that, again, always focusing on the customer. It's easy to throw down a stage and some lights and say, hey, have at it, but to make it an enjoyable, memorable experience is a little bit harder. So let's walk through a few pairs of shoes thinking about how to get that one done.
Every time that there was a reset, I knew that the choice still had to be made. Are we going to cave in, or are we going to rise up? And even when not everyone was enrolled in the same vision, are we going to hold space and allow those who were no longer aligned with the vision to be able to step away, and step away with dignity?
Whether correct or not, that's up to the individual, but there's a lot of fear around it, and especially at that time, there's a lot of unknown. So trying to allay all those fears for the different customers and the parents, or they weren't going to be safe, and they needed to talk to everybody in the area about it. They needed to talk to the hotel owners, to the local health officials, even the mayor at one point heard about it. So there was a lot of frustration in that. But once we actually started able to talk to the contestants, kind of explain what was going on, like I said, we lost a few because we moved, or the people worried about that. But overall, we did pretty well. We were able to talk to everybody. They felt safe. We had over 400 people at the event, not one problem. So we're not special in that. We just listened to professionals, worked, looked back at some of our expertise, applied it to it, and we had a good, safe time.
So as a sponsor, supporter, delegate, family member, many of us had to step into a space of being brave. But it wasn't just bravery, because bravery alone without responsibility would have been pure foolishness.
We really dug deep and brought some resources to the table. I mean, at one point, we brought probably $250,000 worth of thermal imaging equipment with facial recognition, so it could tag each contestant, know who they were, check their daily temperature, and record it. So we had a log of everything, kind of a high-tech contact tracing. And at the time, temperature was one of the leading ways to check if they were sick or not. Tony and I's background, it's engineering. Tony's actually developed some of the test equipment that they use nowadays for the COVID testing. So we called some contacts, said, hey, what is this going to take to bring in a couple hundred tests at our cost? So we brought imaging equipment, testing. That led to some more fears. People worried about, are you tracking me? Or, these things are positive or negative. Often enough, you never know what's going on with them. And the funny part is, having developed the technology, we know there's only 2 classes of the test. We know how they work, and they know the positivity rate. We picked the best one for the speed and accuracy we needed at the time, and even worked with the county to figure out, hey, if they do come up positive, how do we double test, double check to make sure we're more valid test or more accurate test, I should say. And we felt good about it. It's going to cost us a lot of money, but the contestants deserved it, and we wanted to have a fun, safe event.
So although Tony knew that it could be any variety of these scenarios, he wanted to make sure that we were prepared for the worst case scenario. And so a lot of the decisions that were built into the safety protocols that were announced just before the families were getting ready to leave to go to Florida, they were announced based on preparing for worst case scenario. And Tony was willing to put his neck out on the line and to put his own money on the line at all costs to fulfill these protocols, just to ensure everyone's safety. Well, on the day that all of the protocols were released, based on the phase that county was in, the state of Florida changed the phase.